I'd like to speak a little about the right to vote against someone and exactly what that is. Start out by asking the question, what exactly is the purpose of negative campaigning? Why do politicians do so much mudslinging? And, well, the answer becomes obvious when you think about the right to vote against someone. Here's a picture of a poll that I made. The question asked is, the anybody but Bush crowd had to choose between being misrepresented and not being represented at all. What if in the 2004 presidential election you had been given the option of a negative vote? How would you have voted? Now, to explain that a little, for those who don't know what the anybody but Bush crowd is, back in the Bush elections, in the George W. Bush elections, there were an awful lot of people who, when asked who they wanted to vote for, said anybody but Bush. Well, that's not a candidate, so obviously they couldn't choose that. And what ended up happening is a large number of those people didn't vote at all. Those that did vote chose the opponent that they thought was most likely to win, but not the one that they necessarily thought would have been the best to win. And this skews the election results. In 2004, there were also an awful lot of people who voted for George W. Bush because they didn't want John Kerry to get the presidency. Not that they necessarily wanted George W. Bush to get another term in office, but they had to weigh which was the lesser of the two evils and vote for that one because they didn't expect anybody else could actually win, and voting against someone wasn't an option. Now, if you look at this particular poll, you can see as I scroll down, 54% of the votes were for anybody but George W. Bush. If you subtract those from the 8 votes for George W. Bush, he actually has a negative net vote count of minus 35 votes. Compare that with John Kerry, who has 16 votes for him, and if you scroll way down, you'll find 1 vote against him. He has a positive net vote count of 15. So, if I did the same thing with the 2000 election, what kind of results would we have? Well, let's take a look. Now, to allow more options on the poll for the 2000 election simulation, I decided to do a bit of a compromise, and rather than allow either a for vote or an against vote, to actually allow a person to vote for someone and against someone. It was a limitation of the poll mechanism, but you can still see it does definitely have an effect on the results. Here are the votes for Al Gore, 17 votes, 49%. If I scroll down and I look for the votes for George W. Bush, he doesn't have any. Now, go on to the negative vote page for the 2000 election and pull up the results. And it's going to show it. Let's try that again. Here we go. In this case, we have 28 votes against George W. Bush. That's 78% of the negative votes. 5 votes against John McCain. Here we go. 1 vote against Al Gore. Now, you might notice there's a huge difference there. George W. Bush, in both cases, is getting a negative vote count. He has less than 0 net votes. This is something that a third party could easily compete with. Now, the percentage of votes that John Kerry or Al Gore are getting in these elections, it's questionable whether or not a third party could compete with that. The thing is, who would have really won in the 2000 and 2004 elections if we had been given the right to vote against someone? The answer is, nobody knows. There's really no way to know at all. But what we can say is pretty certain it wouldn't have been George W. Bush either time. So, I've also made some polls for the 2008 election. This one here is not actually a poll for a specific candidate, but rather a poll asking whether or not a person is sure who would be the best choice for president. And it kind of demonstrates an interesting point. Now, you might notice 52% said yes, they're sure, 11% said no, they're not sure. But if I scroll down to the top comment, the one that people like the most, this comment says, "I'm very sure I don't want someone with poor judgment that has surrounded himself with questionable people." Goes on to say, "My vote this year is more against than for someone. Vote John McCain 2008, stop the communist path of Barack Obama." Obviously, this person has gotten the idea that Barack Obama is communist and wants to vote against him because of it. Now, is that accurate information? I don't believe so. I could easily verify why I don't believe so, but that's not the point. The point right now is this is a person who is going to vote for John McCain, not because he wants John McCain to win, but because he doesn't want Barack Obama to win, and he can't actually vote against Barack Obama. So, to me, although I'm a Barack Obama supporter, I would rather have someone actually be able to vote against Barack Obama than to have that person give their vote to someone else because they want to keep out Barack Obama. Because what's happening is that every time an election comes along, the candidates and the parties that don't have anything worthwhile to represent in their favor spend all their time and money slandering their opponents so that they can gain false positive votes from people who really want badly to keep their opponent out. So, at any rate, in this particular poll, somebody responded by writing in that they thought Bozo the Clown would be the best choice for President of the United States of America. Personally, I thought it was pretty ridiculous. He thought it made sense. He said, "Well, wouldn't you vote for Bozo the Clown over Barack Obama?" Well, I'm an Obama supporter. No, I wouldn't. Somebody might. And the question is, who? How many? So I actually made a poll to check that. And here we go. Bozo or Obama? Which one did you vote for if the choices for president in the 2008 United States presidential election were Barack Obama or Bozo the Clown? And, well, unfortunately, Larry Harmon, the most famous actor of Bozo the Clown, died the same day that I made this poll, coincidentally. I had planned to make a Bozo versus John McCain poll also. Out of respect for his friends and family, I decided not to do that. But I did already have this one made, and if I pull up the results on this poll, you can see that Barack Obama is winning by 75%. Bozo the Clown, or by Barack Obama is winning with 75 votes rather. Bozo the Clown has 30 votes. That's 54% to 21%. If I scroll down a little further, you can see some of the comments, and here's actually where I did a sum total, and you can see that there are 4 write-in votes for John McCain, 2 for Hillary Clinton, 1 for Ralph Nader, and 1 for Chuck Baldwin. So, oh yes, there's one more in here, 1 for Cynthia McKinney. So these write-in votes are not quite competing with the 75 votes for Barack Obama or the 30 ballot votes for Bozo the Clown. But it's notable that there are actually write-in votes. Now, note that this particular election, I only allowed 4 votes. There weren't any against votes. This particular poll, rather.